Hey everyone, this is Driftwood speaking for Gamerside, and today I'm going to tell you about God of War Ragnarok, the fourth and last big exclusive from PlayStation after Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and more recently The Last of Us Part 1. Before I start to share a few words about the story of the sequel to the 2018 God of War game, I'd like to assure you that there won't be any spoilers in this review. You are obviously going to see some environments, but I carefully chose some of the early environments so that you can discover the game by yourself. And I believe that most of what I'm showing here has already been shown in the official videos anyway, so it should be safe for you. I've also decided not to talk about one of the big major new features in this episode because again I want to leave the surprise for you, and I'm persuaded that a lot of people are going to talk about it and are going to show it, but I'm not. So hopefully you can discover the game as I did, as if you'd never heard about it, because for me personally, I actually didn't watch any of the promotional videos before it got released. Another thing is, I will say is that I will also be quite vague about the new weapon, because there's a new weapon, as I'll talk about later in this video. But the idea is, you need to find out for yourself, and I think it's probably for the best. Now that things have been cleared out, let me tell you a little bit about the context of this sequel. Ragnarok starts a few years after the end of the previous game. Atreus has grown up, is a teenager now, and he's much more independent. And you can feel that Kratos actually, trusts him a bit more. Now, Odin is actually a guest in their cabin, and he makes Kratos an offer that obviously Kratos is going to refuse. All of this offer was about peace, but the condition for the peace is not acceptable for Kratos, as his son wants to try and stop Ragnarok, wants to try and understand where he's from, and Kratos is accepted to follow him because he doesn't want to fight with him over such a, not a trivial reason, but let's say that, because Atreus is a teenager, Kratos is going to face probably one of the biggest foes ever, because teenage years can be pretty difficult and tough, and teenagers have secrets, and Atreus will have secrets too. So get ready for some, let's say for some disagreements between the two characters, but I think the way the story is written is much improved over the past game. In the first game, there were sequences that I found a bit awkward. I really liked the story though, but some moments when Kratos was, behind Atreus, who was really sad, and Kratos wanted to comfort him somehow, but he didn't know how, and so he would raise his hand, trying to touch son's shoulders, but then eventually stopped because it was not who he was. So this is gone, and he's not a lot more human this time around, and I think it worked very well. It's still Kratos, mind you, don't worry about that, but he opens up more, and I think it's very interesting the way the story pushes things forward and how the characters evolve, and I think you're going to like it very much like I did. In terms of gameplay, God of War Ragnarok is more a continuation of the previous episode than a revolution. So expect to see things that you already saw before. And that's okay, because gameplay was actually very solid and very satisfying in the first game. I know technically it was not the first game, but let's say it's the first game for the sort of reboot that God of War 2018 was. The thing is, contrary to the previous game, you don't have to wait for hours before you can get the Blades of Chaos. So, which means that very early on you'll be able to switch between two weapons, and as in the past, you'll have to get experience points to acquire new attacks. What's a bit of a shame is that the attacks you unlock are sometimes attacks, especially in the beginning, that you already unlocked in the previous episode, which doesn't really make sense in terms of story or even in terms of game mechanics in a way, because, well, Kratos should be able to charge up heavy attack, for example, with R2, and you have to unlock it again. Aside from that, after a few hours, you get quite a bit of combos to play with your enemies, and again, it's a very satisfying combat system. You can really basically express yourself with your weapons and literally jungle with your foes, and well, play with them. And the goal being to actually raise their let's say a stun meter, so that you can start a finish move that is still very brutal. I just regret that, just like in the 2018 game, you don't get to be more active during the finish moves. There are no QTEs basically, and I think that you lose that sort of brutality of the character because you become more a spectator and not an actor anymore for a few seconds. Now, aside from that, there are a few things that are new, and there are actually a bunch of shields now. It's not the one and only shield you had in the previous game, and there's actually a narrative twist to justify that. So some shields are basically more meant to parry, others are better for blocking, but all come with basically a sort of special attack, and you can also use them to counter some very specific attacks that your enemies can launch that are symbolized by a sort of blue circle, and you can actually strike the ground twice with your shield, and you throw their attack back at them, and it stuns them, and it's very satisfying again. The combat system, again, is very close to what it was with a new weapon, as I said before, but I'm not going to say what weapon it is. Just know that it's actually a weapon we've never seen in the series, as far as I remember, and that is it's very different from the other two, and that it will be very useful during combat, obviously, but also during exploration to reach certain heights, or to be able to get rid of what's in your way. And I think you unlock it in the last third of the game, I would say. I'm not too sure about that. And it's a new addition, and it's a welcome addition, I would say. Although I have to say that I really love the axe, and I also love the Blades of Chaos. They're actually really brutal, and what you can do with them, it actually is sometimes the easy way out is to use the Blades of Chaos, as you can now with the axe and the blades concentrate the element, so ice for the axe, and also fire for the blade, to make it more powerful. So the next strike will be more powerful, and will add an ice effect or a burning effect, and it's very, very cool. Other than that, there's a lot of exploration, as you can expect, things to find, things to loot, which is quite funny because the game mocks Kratos in a way. Atreus has to explain to the other characters why his father is actually leaving the main path to go get a chest or something, explaining them that it's just that he likes loot. And I think it's a nice touch that they do that, because you actually expect people not to understand why you're not following the main path, because you're supposed to be in quite of a rush, I would say. Now, if you're worried about what you're seeing, because it's really similar to what you played in God of War in 2018, well, again, don't worry, because I'm only showing you the beginning. And sure, you're going to kick asses most of the time, but like I said, there's exploration, there are puzzles. You can also use during combat the environment a lot more. Like there are like sort of blocks of fire or rocks that you can throw at your enemies, and you can also use trees sometimes. you can use many things, and not just like fire jars like in the past. But I also enjoy the fact that exploration has expanded. In the first game, there was one main hub area. There's no such thing anymore as there are portals now you can use to go from one realm to another, so you don't need to go back to one place to travel. And the thing is, there are different and several open areas, and they're pretty massive. So sometimes you're in your canoe and you're exploring them. Sometimes you're on a sled. Sometimes you're on foot also. So I'm not going to give away too much, but there's a last area that you unlock toward maybe not the end, but the last third again. It's a bit hidden. It's not exactly hidden, because if you follow a side quest, you're going to find it very easily. And this side quest is quite actually engaging, I would say, narratively. But this area it looks gorgeous, and there are so many things to do there, and so many optional things to do that you don't want to miss. And so you're going to realize that there are actually a lot more hours of gameplay ahead of you, although you believe you're reaching the end. And I think it's really nice to be able to be surprised even at the end. Enemies are also a lot more varied this time around. I mean, you'll actually meet some of the old enemies too, but trolls are actually pretty rare, I would say, this time around. But yeah, it's a lot of fun just finding a way to kick their asses as best as you can. Use the juggle option, use the blades of chaos as I am using now, and it's really I'd say it's something that not a lot of games can do, is you feel the power. And the DualSense has been really actually they take advantage of it for the subtle things, but also for combat. So it's just a lot of fun, even though you actually find some sequences that are reminiscent of the first game, like this one, when you have to destroy those fiber things in the elf realm. It's still quite fresh in the end. You also have different types of puzzles now with let's say mirrors, and you need to aim at them, use the axe, and then it bounces off the mirrors and breaks a mechanism to actually unlock the way. And it's something it makes you think a little bit. How am I going to do it? What am I missing? Things like that. And I think it's really great. There are also bigger enemies to fight, obviously, but what I also like about Ragnarok is that it knows how to take its time. And I'm not sure everyone will like it, but those sort of Naughty Dog moments when you basically can admire the environment and enjoy the story are passages that I do care for a lot, and I think it was really nice. On PlayStation 5, you can choose to play with 2 different graphics modes, but if you own a 120Hz screen and it's compatible with VRR, you'll be able to have 4 different ways to play the game. Indeed, when you activate the high refresh rate, you can enjoy a 40 FPS mode, which favors resolution, or an unlocked frame rate, which can go above 60 in performance mode. As you probably know, if you know anything about me, I'm not against a good 30 FPS game if image quality actually takes advantage of it. But here I would probably advise you to go for the performance mode, as I think that image quality is still very, very good, and the differences between the 2 modes are actually hard to pick. And I'm pretty sure DF is going to be able to show you exactly what's different. But for me as a player, I really think that the trade-off for losing the 60 FPS, even if you can play it at 40, is really not worth it. And it's just my opinion, but everything you've seen so far has been was captured in performance mode, and I think it shows that the game is actually beautiful It looks amazing. It's very, very smooth. And when you see the 30 FPS mode, as I cannot capture 40, you'll probably understand what I mean. Graphically, I think the game looks superb. I think that even though some environments are maybe a bit less impressive than others, you get still beautiful vistas, and I'm only showing you just a small glimpse, so don't believe that you've seen everything because you're watching this review. Shadows is much more defined on this gen. Textures are very detailed. There are a lot of details in the environment, and even the fur actually effect is much improved over the PS4 version. Although I have to say that the differences between PS4 Pro and PS5 are not as obvious as in Forbidden West. A lot of people criticized the way water looked in the previous game. It's not perfect yet, but it looks much better for me at least, and it's an improvement. I maybe regret a little bit the fact that skin really looks like plastic still, and it's no big deal, but it's something that I wanted to bring up anyhow. But look at the landscapes again. It's an amazing looking game. It may be cross-gen, but it's still impressive that we're getting such games now and running at 60 FPS or more. It's a joy to play. Sound-wise, it's great, obviously, and I have nothing to say. I mean, the soundtrack is great. The voice actors are incredible, and there's a lot of variety also. Even though you get to see some of the realms that we visited before. I mean, there are different places in those realms, and they still look awesome today. And like I said, with the new open areas, it's nice. So I wanted to show you the resolution mode running at 30 FPS here, and you can see that the difference is not that obvious to me in terms of image quality and assets in general. It plays well, mind you, but it was not my choice. When it comes to the PS4 Pro version, which I had to show you, it's the only old gen version that I could play. But as on PS5, you have two graphics modes, just like in the previous game anyway. And that's clearly where the difference is the most obvious. Frame rate it's less smooth on old gen, even if you choose the frame rate mode, the performance mode, which wasn't very smooth at the time either anyhow. So it's not a big surprise. The resolution mode seems pretty stable, but I didn't get to play a lot on PS4 as I had to start over from the beginning. And other than that, even if you can see that I'm switching modes so you can see the difference, it looks very, very similar to the PS5 version. So I don't think people are going to be unhappy with this version of the game. Now, clearly, shadows are less detailed. Like I said before, the fur effect is much more improved on PlayStation 5. Ambient occlusion is also much better on PS5. So it's these differences you can see if you really compare both versions side by side. But it's really a matter of it's a bit similar to a PC game where you play maybe in medium settings or high or very high or ultra in a way. But the game still looks amazingly beautiful on PS4, and it's still very, very playable, which I think is the most important part when you play a game. So again, if you own a PS4 or PS4 Pro, you should be very, very happy with God of War Ragnarok. And well, it's probably a must play at the end of this year, clearly. Now, to conclude, what can I say? As you probably guess, I really enjoy my time on God of War Ragnarok. It's certainly a continuation of the game that came out in 2018, but I don't think we could expect anything more than that. I think the new features that I, again, chose not to talk about very much, not to give you details of, and not to show you, are very interesting. There's even something that actually, takes the gameplay to different heights. I would say it's not maybe different heights, but it's different. It feels different. It's new in the series, and I think it works very well, both narratively and mechanically. So it's a game that, even though it's cross-gen, looks beautiful, and that it'd be a shame not to enjoy it this end of year. And I think it's one of the best looking games out there, by today's standard, even though we'd like to see the hardware pushed probably further, but the high frame rate again is a blessing. And I really can't see anyone who enjoyed God of War in 2018 feel like they've been betrayed or anything by this sequel. It's exactly what we needed. It's the story is very engaging. There's a lot of suspense. You are going to wonder what's going to happen. Will the prophecy come true or not? And it's actually very difficult sometimes, and there are some emotional moments. And it's a game to play this year. Absolutely.